Hello, and welcome to another episode of Friday Night Knits. Happy New Year! It is now officially 2026, and I thought I would do a quick roundup of my favorite 2025 hits, as well as a couple of misses, and then finally wrap up with talking about some potential plans for 2026. So, if this is something you're interested in, stay tuned. So, 2025 has been a whirlwind. I cannot believe that today is January 2nd of 2026, but it's here and I'm for it. So, with that said, I wanted to start off with what were some of the projects that we did for 2025 that we're all super proud of. Everyone has something in their wardrobe where we're just like, gosh, I'm so proud of myself with that. And for me, it was a pair of socks that I made. I'm actually pulling up my notes to that where I can tell you that exactly. I had a lot of interest in developing my skill set as a sock knitter, and there were so many different patterns that I came across, but the one that really helped solidify my love and joy for sock knitting was the sock free pattern called the Petty Harbor socks. Now, I decided to use a random skein of yarn that I found that I forgot I purchased. I was like, oh, maybe I'll get reacquainted with it. It was a yarn I had initially bought because I was feeling a little anxious about going to a book launch event. And so, long story short, I was sitting in my car and trying to calm my nerves down and decided to head over to the yarn store closest to my job. I went ahead and, caked it up, sat in my car with a brand new pair of knitting needles that I didn't need, and decided to cast on the Petty Harbor socks. And this is it. So these socks are well worn, which is the reason why it looks a little rough on camera, but I love them. I wear them so frequently with and without slippers to bed, around the house, in my shoes. And I did not think I was going to fall in love with them as much as I did, but I have. For this particular pair of socks, I didn't do everything that the pattern called for. So, for example, I made my cuff a little bit shorter. I obviously did a shorty instead of the full length, and I'm happy with that. In addition, I also decided to do a shadow wrap hill. That is a hill I'm most accustomed to, and I know how to do the most best. However, as you can see at the bottom, it is starting to do some wear and tear. I found that even with the hill flapping gusset, maybe it's because I'm not as skilled with it, I still have some wear and tear where there's holes in it. And I haven't found the best pair of socks that I can eliminate that potentially happen. Although this has held up a lot more than what I thought because this is head fiber and it's but one of their 75 25 skeins of yarn. And yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised about how well they have held up because let me tell you, I've been wearing them everywhere around the house. So for me, for 2025, this is probably one of those items that I am literally so proud of myself. And I'm so glad that it came into my life because not only did it help me through a very anxious moment, but it also just helped me fall in love with the art of sock knitting. So this is something I'm so, so proud of. Another item I'm proud of that I am unbelievably glad that it's over because I spent way too much time analyzing the yarn and the pattern and trying to make it work and realizing that the pattern I was doing it for was not going to work. So having to cast on something else. And so that is the Aura sweater. The Aura sweater, here it is. I'm going to hold it up. I should probably put it on. I'll try to insert some pictures of myself wearing it. If not, you can totally see me wearing it on Ravelry. But with this particular sweater, one of the reasons why I love it so much is not just because of the beautiful colors that was custom dyed for me through Needles at the Ready. It's really just due to the fact how well the colors work together. I was inspired by the book cover for Sunrise Reaping. It's another book in the Susan Collins Hunger Games series. It's part of the prequel that she's doing. And I love the blending of the purple and the gold and the silver. It just looked magnificent. And initially I was going to do the coming together shawl, but I just ran into too many issues with that particular pattern, not for anything done with the pattern. Like the pattern is well written. It is definitely not the designer who is Lisa Ross. It really was just me. I don't think I was just in the right headspace to kind of lock in and focus on what it is that the pattern was calling me to do, which is why I was so glad that I came across the Aura sweater because this has become my most worn knit. It did start out with the late to checkout sweater. I'm not going to lie. The late to checkout sweater has been something that is frequently put on, even in the summertime where it's too cold or too hot, I should say, to be wearing it. But the Aura sweater, even though I recently finished this has been worn so much where the fact that I've had to come up with some interesting ways to keep it clean because I just love wearing it. I love wearing it to work. I can wear it with a nice pair of dress slacks. I can also wear it with jeans and leggings. I've even worn it over pajama bottoms as well. It is definitely, it's just a cozy sweater. And I really was surprised by that because it is, the yarn is about, I think it's an 80-20 blend. It's mostly fingering weight held double. And I genuinely just did not expect to find it to be comfortable on my skin, especially when it was touching me to skin. Most of the sweaters I have to wear something under it, at least a t-shirt or undershirt, or even this long sleeve item here, but not with this little bad boy. This one I can wear with nothing on it and not feel that itch factor. So this is the sweater that I'm so proud of myself for pushing myself to uh, do something creative, and that I was able to repurpose a yarn that I was a little uncertain about what to do because I went through so much to get the yarn made or dyed, I should say. And I was so upset. I was like, why am I having such problems with the shawl and not having the right headspace to really like lock in to understand it, which is why I was so happy when this popped up on my radar. And now it is a staple in my wardrobe and I love wearing it. I can't wait to wear it again. I'm surprised I'm not wearing it now, but I love wearing my knitting is yoga. The next garment I wanted to talk about that I ended up really falling for that I wasn't expecting to. This was a pattern by Susan Muller. It is called the Freestyle Shirt. Now I've talked about this a few times on my pattern on my YouTube channel. But for 2025, I decided to do a little bit more summer garments. I made two tops. Actually made three tops. One I ended up giving away and two I kept for myself. And I wasn't too sure about doing a summer tee because I haven't had the best of luck. Check out my rainy day sweater or top shenanigans. But this one, whoo, I definitely did not think I was going to like it as much because I complained the entire time making this garment. And when I say complain, you know how you just thinking to yourself like, oh my gosh, I could be working on something else. This is not that engaging. I had all different theories in my brain. And when it was finished, I was like, oh, this actually looks nicer than what I thought. And then when I put it on, I was like, oh my gosh. This, the yarn I use for this is AMANO Yarns AWA. The colorway I selected was Ink 1113. No, it's 1113 or 1113. Ooh. It's sport weight. I had 500, no, I had 1,640 yards to use. And it looks like I used about four, if not, yeah, about 4.5 of the balls of yarn according to Ravelry. And this was definitely a big hit for me. I wore this frequently in the beginning of the school year. And the temperature has dropped so much where I don't think it would be the best item to wear right now. I could wear it with like a denim jacket or something over it or whatnot, even a blazer, to be honest with you. But I was really surprised at how much I ended up enjoying wearing this particular knit. The collar hasn't stretched out. It has held up with me constantly putting it on and taking it off. The sleeves are not, I thought it would be tight around my bicep because this is probably the biggest part or fattiest part of my body, but that is not happening because it is one of those sleeves where you do the band and you fold it over and you seam it together, and so far so good, no problems there. And the finishing on this was probably the best. I think that's one of the reasons why I like it so much, because this is probably one of the best garments I ever made where I really put forth the attention to detail for the finishing the way it's supposed to be. In addition to that, I also liked the way she had you do the raglan, where you can actually see what increases and decreases that you're doing, and it looks a part of the garment. So I was really pleased with that. And then finally, I decided to again follow the directions for the hem in itself, which is again another folded over. It's a little cricket because there was definitely some moments where I missed a stitch or two or whatnot. And if I were to ever knit the freestyle sweater, which has a similar construction, I probably would do some form of provisional cast on or something that will allow it to be a little easier for the pickup. She does suggest doing a lifeline when you are getting to that particular stage where you're doing that. Did I follow that suggestion? No. Should have? Yes. So all in all, the freestyle shirt came out to be one of my favorite items for 2025. It was an unexpected hit for me in my wardrobe, and it's now something I look forward to. I cannot wait till the temperature changes slightly where I can be wearing this again. So you'll see me in this hopefully in April. You know how I am about wearing my knits online. And then the final item that I wanted to share with you for 2025 that was absolutely a joy and one of my favorite items I have ever made with my hands is my Berlin scarf. This bad boy, I love it. I wear this thing all the time. I was so happy when we had temperatures in the 50s. I'm like, I'm getting my scarf. And the reason why I love this so much, several. One is that I decided to use inexpensive yarn that I found at Michael's. I had already seen this yarn a few times. I know it's been used in other projects that I came across on Ravelry and YouTube. It is a, what is that? Yarn Inspirations cake. And I'm pulling it up right now so I can tell you the exact details for it. Here we go. So it's a Karen latte cake, and the colorway I selected was Lavender Shore. It's considered to be bulky weight yarn, and I used two full skeins of this yarn, and they're big cakes. They're not like little ones. And what I loved so much about the experience knitting this is that I didn't know what was happening next. Now with the Berlin scarf, I can see why some people who have made this particular item felt a little like, oh my gosh, felt it's sluggish. It's taking forever for the two to be long enough for you to move on to that final stage, which are the fringes. For me, I didn't find it to be sluggish at all. If anything, I ended up watching some random Netflix series and was like, oh gosh, like I'm almost done. And the reason why is because of the color changes in the yarn. I did not know what to expect. Every time I thought I figured out what the sequence of the colors were going to be was another one that popped up. I was like, oh, this is so much fun. And so I don't know, that for me, that was my favorite part about it. The sequence change, the color changes in the yarn really made this enjoyable. And I love how much this grew. I'm a very tall person, and it's very rare that I can find something that is at the length that I want it to be, especially a scarf. I'm not one of those people that like my scarves to stop at my neck. Like that's one of the reasons why I don't wear cowls too often. I love when they come down or whatnot, so that way I can wear it open or as a wrap, etc. So with this, it has grown significantly where even when I'm not wearing it wrapped, it's like touching my knees, which I love. And then second, I did a little fun thing with my fringes. I didn't do what the pattern calls for. Instead, I tapped into some of my crochet days and was able to do, when you're crocheting fringes sometimes, you can do it in a round. I'm not going to explain it well, but there's this little technique that you can do to do it in a round, and it makes a really nice fringe. And so I tapped into that. So I did a half version of that for my fringes, and I actually like this a little bit more. I didn't follow what the pattern suggested, and I'm perfectly happy with the outcome of this. This is definitely one of my favorites. I can throw it in a wash machine and dryer to use it because it is acrylic yarn, and I know people have thoughts and feelings about it, and so that is your choice. But I was really pleased I was able to make this scarf, which I've seen in a mall in a similar colorway and makeup as my current scarf and others. And it's sold for like at minimum $100, and I've seen some of them up to like $300 or whatnot. I'm like, that is bananas to me that someone would spend that much money on one single garment. Mind you, that I probably spent that much money on yarn on like one sweater quantity of it. So who am I to judge, right? But anywho, it really is one of my favorite. I truly enjoy wearing this. It is definitely my top 25 knitwear that I made for this. So much, in fact, I don't think I'm going to take it off right now. In addition to knitting for 2025, I was introduced to spinning. Now, I wasn't really someone who thought, well, I would get into spinning. I've watched various new YouTube channels where their hosts have talked about their spinning journey. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm happy for you. That's good for you. That's not something I would want to do. And I don't know whether it was Kevin from Needles at the Ready or Natalie from Knitty Natty, but both of them were talking about their knitting journey more frequently on their channel, and the different things that they went through and what techniques that they learned. And then I was watching Michael from Piece for Piece, and he too was talking about it. I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. And then they were showing some of their outcomes with the spinning. I was like, oh, I'm a little curious. So from there, I ended up buying a drop spindle, and this was one of the drop spindles that I purchased. This is a Turkish drop spindle. I'm missing one of the pieces, it's in the thing, but it comes with two pieces, and then you spin it, and it's you can wrap it around to make more of a cake like version of the item. But with that said, I genuinely had fun not only learning how to do the drop spindle with the class I took this over the summer, but it was just, I was having fun with it, learning how to draft and really like paying attention to how I pinched and drafted the yarn. And because of that wonderful, exciting experience of learning how to draft and then learning how to do the drop spindle, and then we learned how to treadle on the machine, not on a traditional spinning wheel, I decided that I wasn't quite ready for the traditional spinning wheel because there needs to be a little bit more coordination with my feet. I can definitely see the benefit of it because it's hard to use my hand to stop and go with my electric spinning wheel, but it is definitely something I love so much. So for 2025, I have to say I'm so grateful that I fell into the rabbit hole of spinning. It is something that I see being a long-term member of my crafting experience, and the spin outcome I'm most proud of, or the yarn, I guess I can say, it's crazy, that I'm most proud of is this lovely yarn here. This was a part of a sample that I did. Wow, that looks so good. I'm so proud of myself. So I bought one of these like sample learn how to drop spin kits on Etsy a few months ago, and it's just been sitting in my collection. And then when I took the drop spindle class, I used some of it in order to practice some of the techniques with drop spinning. And then from there, it's just been sitting. And then after I purchased my e-spinner, I decided that before I dive into my more expensive wool that I purchased from Rhinebeck and other experiences, I wanted to practice the technique using this wool. And one night, I was really like paying attention to how I was pulling, looking at the triangle, just making sure I was making the yarn the way I had envisioned. And then I was able to what is the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh. I can't remember the word. Oh, ply it. Oh, it's wow, day 2 of the year and I'm already forgetting my words. So off to a good start. Anywho, was able to ply it together, and this is probably the best version of ply I've ever done, where there's so much more consistency in the yarn. Obviously there's a few places where it's a little bit more bulkier than others. There's even some where it's a little thinner than others, like this is definitely a little thinner than this piece here. But all in all, I was really, this is probably my best version of it. So I can't, it makes me so excited to see what I'm able to do for 2026. So this is probably my most proud moment that I've had in my spinning journey. And I can't wait to put this into a garment. Now, actually, I'm going to put it in an accessory. My goal is to knit the shawl that's called the Simple Things. I'm going to use this. And I'm also in the middle of spinning my Joy Scott. I'm doing a little mini vlog about that experience, and I hope to share that with all of you, where you can see what I'm doing there. So my expectation for myself is to spin this whole item, if I can figure out how to get it back on my lazy cape. But anywho, I'm going to spin this whole item, and then after I'm successful in spinning it, I am then going to knit it into the Simple Things. This is going to be the end pieces, and then I'll do the middle, the little pink that you saw there. And I tried chain plying for the first time, which actually came out a little bit better than what I thought. And I'm trying to be more intentional about which type of ply to do, whether to do a 2-ply or a chain ply or even a 3-ply, just depending on the texture as well as the plumpness I want for my yarn. So very happy about that. Now, there's been a lot of hits for 2025. I can go on and on and on about that, but I've talked about these projects in my previous YouTube videos, so I'm not going to bore you with that. But there was a project that I had better intentions about, and that did not come out the way it was supposed to. And it's not to the fault of the designer or the yarn. It's me here. I'm taking responsibility. And that is my ooey gooey. Andrea Mowry does an annual Rhinebeck sweater, and she's been doing so, I want to say, for the last 6 years. I could be wrong. Those of you who are more Andrea Mowry fans might know a little bit more than I do. Nevertheless, Andrea Mowry's patterns have definitely been moments where I've had some great success. My DRK Everyday sweater is one of my favorite, to the point where I stretched out the collar so much because I wore it very often, so I need to add some elastic to it as soon as I find the elastic thread. In addition to that, I love my Illuminate sweater. It is another one of those random moments that I cast on that I'm so glad it came out stunning as well. And it was a close contender for like my favorites for 2025. But the one where I learned the most, and when I say I learned the most, I'm not just saying about the techniques, but just also myself as a knitter and myself as a person. And that is my ooey gooey sweater. So I made a ooey gooey for my sister-in-law that came out without a problem. Like there was no issue. I flew through it and was able to give it to her. I made it cropped intentional because I had it envisioned for her to wear almost like a vest over a nice button-down shirt. However, for myself, I really wanted a nice gray sweater. Gray is probably one of my favorite colors to wear, and I don't care about the whole like, oh, my color, you know how people get their colors checked or whatnot. That's never been my cup of tea. I just wanted to, I just like, I know what I like to wear, and that's that. So anyway, I digress. It took me forever and a year just to pick the right color changing yarn because I wanted a color changing yarn. And as much as I try to fight it, I love spin cycle yarn. As expensive as it is, I have consistently had just some of the most positive knitting experience with my spin cycle yarn. So it's one of the first lessons I learned, stop fighting it. If you know you want to use spin cycle, use it. Just find the spin cycle that you want to use. I went to my collection first to see if there was anything there. And I had assumed that I would use something in my collection because all the spin cycle yarn I had at the time, I loved as well. But I wasn't drawn to it. And that's part of the whole knitting experience. Certain yarns you are drawn to. But with my ooey gooey, I found the Holy Toledo spin cycle yarn when I was at Circle of Stitches in Salem, Massachusetts, and fell absolutely in love. So the collar came out exactly the way I had envisioned. I love the color choice I made with this. I love the yarn I chose as well. I decided to use Knitting for Olive, their regular merino, and hold the two strands together. Even though the pattern calls for a sport weight, it's such a thin fiber. I thought I could get away with getting gauge with that, and I was able to get gauge. So here were the mistakes I made in this, and I use this as a reflection for myself as a knitter. Some of the mistakes I made was rushing through the pattern. Since I had successfully made it with my sister-in-law, I did not take the time to read it for myself and to make sure that I recall the right information. I had just made a lot of assumptions. So let's start with like the short rows. So for example, I thought I was doing the short rows correctly, but then when I look at it closer, I can see that I did not count properly and I went a little too far in one direction. And so I have more fabric built up on this side of the sweater than I do on the other. So that was my first mistake. My second mistake that I made was with the body length. So I thought the next mistake I was going to make was with the welts, which is the reason why I really paid close attention to make that exactly the way I envisioned. So the welts came out better than what I thought. It looks a little lopsided because of the additional fabric I had added to it when I was doing the German short rolls, because again, was not paying attention, was not really, I don't know, I think I was holding when I hold the sweater this way, here, I'll show you. No issues whatsoever. It's more symmetry. But when I hold it for the way I broke for sleeves, there's the issue. And so that's where I think I made my second mistake, is like how I broke for sleeves. I really should have tried it on just to make sure the circular yoke to fit the way that I needed it to, and before breaking the sleeves, and that I turned the fabric in such a way in order to make sure I broke for sleeves in the right location, which is what I did not do. So that was a big mistake that I made with that. So that was mistake number two. That I should say, mistake number three is definitely the body. And the reason why with the body, I was getting fatigued. I did not want to work on the sweater anymore. Were other sweaters that I was interested in. I think I was working on the final touches for my sister-in-law's garment. There were other garments I had in my project queue. I don't know. I just lost my momentum with this. And so I was itching to quickly bind off with this, which is the reason why the body is not the length it needs to be. Now, when I hold it up to my chest like this, it looks fine. But when I actually put it up to my shoulders, it's barely past my navel. And so it was pretty clear, had I even just did this little number here, I would have realized that it's not long enough. Just keep going or put the project down and come back to it again. Because I definitely finished this well before it was time for me to go to Rhinebeck. But I was just, again, I lost my patience. In addition to the body not being long enough, the length of the sleeves were not long enough. So as I mentioned before, my DRK everyday sweater is my best fit. That is the garment that fits me out of everything I own in my sweater wardrobe. It fits me to a T. And I should have used my measurements from that particular garment for this because that was the fit I was envisioning. Heck, I could have measured my length of my sleeves in order to compare it to this to see that I clearly am not there. So definitely rushed to bind this off. And when I finished it, it's like, it's barely to the midpoint of my forearm. So I was like, oops, made a mistake there. In addition to that mistake, so first mistake, my German shirt rolls are incorrect. I broke for sleeves in the wrong part of the body where I have more fabric on one side than the other. My body, the length of the body is not long enough. The length of the sleeves are not long enough. And my cuffs are not long enough. Again, clearly was feeling fatigue. You can just see this instantly. I don't know why in my genius, I thought this was a good idea. I wasn't running out of yarn, didn't have any problems, but yes, this sleeve is much longer. This sleeve is longer than this one. So that was another mistake. And then finally, not only did I not pay that close attention, I did not do enough with the finishing. And so that brings me to the holes in my underarms. I usually am a little bit more meticulous about making sure that I pick up stitches in such a way where there's no gaps in that. So for example, oh, this one would be a perfect example. You clearly have to pick up stitches for this. And so I tried to do my pickup for my underarms to a point where there's very minimum amount of holes there where you shouldn't be able to see it. And so I don't know why for this one, I did not do the same level of care. And with the color of this, I can get away with it a little bit more with this particular garment. I know, but with gray being such a solid color, I should have just went through, used the additional yarn tail that I have that is still hanging, and just sewed, close the hole. I didn't do that. And then I have it on this side as well, not as noticeable, but it's there too. And the way I broke for sleeves, you can definitely see it a little bit more because it's a little higher up than right in my armpit. So I don't know what I was thinking there. So all in all, this is definitely the knit that is so beautiful. Like my yoke is perfect. In terms of like the color, not the shaping, I know. But so that was not the issue. The issue is that I just rushed through some of those meticulous details that you need to pay closer attention to in order to avoid that. So for 2025, I learned a lot from this sweater. I learned that patience is a virtue and that knitting, as a reminder, knitting is not a marathon. You really should take your time with it. You should make sure that your finishing touches are done, because if you do the finishing perfectly, it's going to really enhance the quality of the garment and you probably wear it a little bit more. Because I don't reach for this. I have not worn this. I think I've worn this twice since I finished it. And so I'm on the fence about re-knitting the whole thing. We'll see. But right now it's not looking too good. My only other option, if I don't decide to re-knit it, I can always give it to my little cousin. She seems to like all of my knitwear things. So she might be getting another sweater for this year as well. So that's the end of my 2025 knitting journey. I've had a lot of hits, definitely one big miss, but I learned a lot from that particular garment and I'm okay with that. Initially, I was going to include about my goals for 2026, and I don't want this video to be too long. It's already at 28 minutes, and so I want to wrap this up as quickly as possible. So I will just quickly share with you that for January 2026, my goal is to finish all the projects I started in 2025 that I haven't finished yet. So I have about 7 of them. I need to finish my croissant sweater, a pair of socks I'm knitting, a pair of mittens, the zipper sweater, the Arctic Light, a crochet project. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, and a spin. And so quite a few projects that I'm hoping to finish. And my next video, I will hope to be telling you, how many times can I say hope? I would like to tell you about my success in accomplishing that. So far is off to a good start, because I am pleased to report that with the croissant sweater, I officially finished the sleeve, not like I did before where I thought I finished and I didn't. And I actually finished the body yesterday. So I'm off to a good start for 2026. I only have this little bit of the sleeve left, and then I will be done. In regards to the rest of my projects, I am nowhere near where I need to be in getting them finished. The closest may be the Wicked socks. I'm on the second one, but I need to figure out how to do the heel flapping gusset, doing a bottom up sock. And I've never done that before. So I'm going to have to go into YouTube University to figure that out. Everything else is in the beginning stages, where it may take a little bit more time. So if I might finish all 7 projects by the end of 2026 of January, but the likelihood is very low. But you never know. Unexpected things can happen. Also for 2026, my hope is to spend a little bit more time utilizing the yarn that's in my current collection. As you can see behind me, I have yarn to the left, to the right, heck, in behind me, not in behind me, in front of me, I also have yarn too. And so with this large collection of yarn, I really want to spend more time getting to know it and then repurposing it for a specific project where I don't have to go out and buy more yarn, and that what I have in my current collection is more than enough to finish whatever garment or accessory that I'm leaning towards. In addition, I also would like to reduce my spending on patterns and yarn, because I have spent too much time buying items and not using them, and spending such a large amount of money. And given the nature of what's happening in the world, things are feeling a little uncertain. And so I want to be a little bit more frugal, and just until I feel a little bit more comfort in what's happening in the stability of these United States. And I'll leave it at that. So my hope is that I will just intentionally engage with the patterns I have purchased. So for example, I have about I want to say a little over 100 patterns in my Ravelry that I can do, in addition to the 2 knitting books, as well as the spinning book that I purchased that has 7 patterns. I'm a part of the Colorwork Cuff Club, the volume 2. So I'm getting free pattern, not free patterns, but new patterns with that. So there's definitely a significant amount of items out there that I can use for a potential garment or accessory or something of that nature that really like resonates with me. Or I can just even repurpose the yarn to make like a little scrappy project. I love making scrappy blankets, and I still have my eye on the sea glass sweater, for example, that is perfect for a scrappy knit. So for 2026, finishing my projects from 2025 is my number 1 priority. And then from there, just spend quality time with the yarn I have, as well as with the the patterns I have in my current collection. If I'm successful with that, hopefully I will have a significant reduction of yarn. And so that way, when by the time I get to May, when I'm purchasing my birthday yarn for myself, I won't feel as guilty, because I can actually see that there's some empty cuppies in my yarn room, and I want to fill them up with yarn that I'm going to use, and not yarn I potentially use. In addition, I want my cubbies to actually include my makes. Now, most of my my makes are in my bedroom, and I don't really get to see them, and I want to have them on display. And I want them on display in my yarn room, so when I'm knitting or crocheting, I can see them and feel inspired, because this Berlin scarf, for example, inspires me every day to hurry up and go home and work on something, because this just brought way too much joy in my life, and I want to experience that every time I knit and crochet. And then finally, I also want to learn the art of sewing. I have successfully learned how to spin in 2025. In 2024, I really learned how to become a sock knitter to a degree. I got better at it in 2025, but I learned the technique of sock knitting. It is very specific. I find that sock knitting actually is a little bit more challenging than knitting a garment. That's just my 2 cents. But for myself, I was gifted this beautiful sewing machine for my husband as his holiday present to myself. I went ahead and purchased more thread that my niece told me was actually the wrong thread to buy, and I was like, oops. And I purchased some practice fabric that I saw online. And so she was kind enough to come over to help me thread my sewing machine. So it is ready for me to get busy with it. My goal is to start off with something small, like sewing up a tote bag, and then hopefully moving up to some pajama bottoms, and then just continuing with my sewing journey there. So I'm really, really excited to spend 2026 learning how to sew. I'm on the wait list for some sewing basic classes, and hopefully I will get an email inviting me to purchase this class so I can go there. I do have a Craftsy membership as well that I plan on utilizing to help me learn how to sew. And then finally, whatever videos I find on YouTube. So if you have any recommendations, definitely feel free to share. And so for 2026, I just want to continue to grow as a crafter, whether it's knitting or crocheting or spinning and now sewing. And then I also just want to use what I have been so successful in acquiring. I really love my current collection of yarn, just looking at it. There's just so many potential projects I can cast on, and there's just no excuse not to do it. So I just need to just buckle up and get it done. So with that said, I just want to wish you all an amazing 2026. I hope it brings you blessings overflowed of financial stability, more crafting in your life, just more laughter and joy, and just a time for you to enjoy yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in to hearing about my 2025 recap, and I look forward to sharing with you in my next video about my spinning journey. I will be putting out another video talking about my attempt to chain ply. So wish me luck with that. Have a wonderful weekend.